looks like we've got everybody in from the waiting room, and I will keep an eye on that. But I think we're probably about ready to get started. So everyone is on mute. If you have any questions, we've got a few good folks here from PMC who are monitoring the chat. I am Laura Windpassenger. I'm the Director of Operations for Prospect Management. I will essentially be your host along with my co-host, Mike Leach. And I do have Becca here in the office as well. And so you're gonna, basically we've got some pre-recorded videos because of social distancing and things, we couldn't figure out the safest way that we could do all of this live tonight, but myself and our entire team are on the line and ready to answer the questions. So we will upload our content and then allow, kind of take some breaks and allow for questions. So I think we can go ahead and get started with our tips and tricks portion. I apologize if anyone heard that song. This is obviously like our first major big seminar. We've done several smaller ones. This is our first pretty big one and pretty technical. So I don't think we bit off more than we can chew, but I think we should be able to get this show on the road. So without further ado, I'm gonna load our first video. We had our management team put together several videos on tips and tricks on dealing with normal times, dealing with COVID times, and kind of going over some of the new technology that we have here. So without further ado, I will get started.
Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. I'm Matt Schultz. This is my twin brother Mark Schultz. He's the senior manager here, and Jennifer Ariano. We're talking today about virtual meetings and how to use them, why you would use them. You can probably be familiar with a lot of what we go over because you are in a virtual meeting right now. We're going to start with the basics of how and why to use a virtual meeting application, capabilities and functions that you can do in that virtual meeting, and the different platforms you may want to use to conduct your meeting. We are then going to go a little bit more deep into RingCentral, which is the one that we use here at PMC. We'll follow up with how to use these for a regular board meeting, and as far as how to conduct business, get approvals in homeowner forums, and then annual meetings with basically the same things, just in a larger scale.
All right, I'll start with the basics. First thing you want to do is determine if a virtual meeting would be good for your community. You want to look at factors such as the average age of the residents, how many emails are being used, whether residents email often or if there's a lot of residents that don't have emails or computers. That's something you want to look at. You should check with the size of your property whether it be a good fit, or in the involvement of owners, how often they come to meetings, how many participate in meetings, that kind of thing can all be good factors for determining if a virtual meeting would be good for your community. So when you're preparing a virtual meeting, you usually use your manager, your property manager, or a board member to set up the meeting. We do have the capability with RingCentral to allow board members to have the ability to host a meeting or set up a meeting. Otherwise, you usually look to your property manager to set that up and send out the information to owners. When we send out the information, we provide instructions. They're very detailed, especially if this is the first time your community's had a virtual meeting. We talk about how to use the RingCentral program, answer any questions right off the bat if we can as to how to set up your account and how to get onto the program in the first place. There are a lot of really great tutorials on the ringcentral.com website as well. So if you ever need additional information, you can check there. There's a lot of different platforms that you can use for virtual meetings. As many of you know, Zoom RingCentral, Microsoft Teams, 8x8, Skype. There's a ton of them out there. We use RingCentral, which is actually an application through Zoom made for businesses. So RingCentral is a Zoom program for businesses, as I just said, for business use. It's a global messaging video chat program that I believe is available in about 40 countries currently. So most of the time it would probably only be used in your general vicinity, but if you have residents who live out of town or out of country, they would have the ability to still attend the meeting via virtual, which they could never do with an in-person meeting. It's very secure. One of the main reasons we use RingCentral is it's got a lot of security protocols to make sure that you, your homeowners, and your data is kept safe throughout the meeting. So the way it works, there's computer options or cell phone applications that you can set up for RingCentral. You have to download the free app on either program or on either platform, and then create a free user login. With the computer, it has a little bit more functionality than the cell phone does, but they both have some really great qualities. One really cool thing about the computer is if you're on the RingCentral app there, you can see up to 25 different users' videos at the same time in one screen, whereas with the cell phone, you can only see up to 4 at one time, so you'd have to scroll through multiple pages of users to see everybody that's on the call if you have a large number of people on those calls. One really cool thing about both is you can set it so it just shows the video for the person who is speaking. So as the speaker changes, it goes to that person's video or that person's phone to show you who is talking at that time. Another thing I really like about the phone app is it has what's called a driving mode. So if you are mobile while you're doing your app and you still want to participate, or while you're doing your meeting, you can set it to driving mode or safe driving mode. And what it does is it turns your video off and mutes you, and basically makes a hands-free way to still participate or listen to the meeting. All you have to do is touch the screen with your finger to unmute yourself and speak, and then when you're done, you just click the screen again and it'll remute yourself. So it's completely hands-free with the exception of just having to tap the screen to be able to speak or not. And then if you don't have either of those, you also have the telephone option, which you just call in, you enter the meeting ID on the phone number. That information is all provided prior to the meeting by your property manager or board member, and you can still be on the call just as a telephone, but you wouldn't have access to the video functions. Some of the key features of using RingCentral are, again, the video capabilities. As I said, with the computer, you can see up to 25 different people's videos at one time. With the cell phone, around 4 or less, depending on how many are on the call. One of the really cool things about RingCentral is you can have up to 200 video users at one time in a meeting. So if you have a very large community or a lot of people participating in the meeting, you can actually have up to 200 people with video on there. If you're just doing the teleconference option, which wouldn't include the videos, you can actually have up to 1,000 people on those meetings. So if you have a very, very large group for some reason, you can get a lot of participants on that video or on that phone call through the teleconference option. There's also a chat function on the video or on the computer and cell phone RingCentral apps that you can utilize. If you are in the middle of a meeting and you have a question, you can put in the chat function, especially since a lot of the time the residents are muted during the meeting. So if you have a question that comes up while somebody's speaking, you can put it in there, or if you just want to thank somebody for something they presented, you can do that through the chat function. It does give you the ability to send a message to the entire group or just to someone privately, and you can choose between those before you send your message. It's very clear as to who it's going to. And you can also raise your hand, which virtually raise your hand, which if you had a question when something's going on, the host of the meeting will see that somebody has their hand raised, so as soon as they get the chance, they can address that question. And then there's a lot of really cool functions for hosting the meeting specifically. So you can mute everybody upon entry so that it reduces the amount of feedback while people are talking or interruptions. You can also manually mute or unmute people on the video call. So when it's their turn to speak, or if they're creating noise that's interrupting somebody who is speaking, you can actually manually mute them through the host function. Probably my favorite part about it is you can share your screen. So if you're in a meeting and you have visual aids such as the agenda or the minutes for that meeting or a video that you want to present during the meeting, the host can actually share their screen, or anybody in the meeting, if they are given that function, can share their screen, and the whole group of people in that video meeting can see what's on that person's screen and benefit from that. It also has the ability to record meetings as a host. So for example, if the minute taker wants to be able to look back on it and see what things were approved or who said what, by recording the video, it's much easier for them to get the minutes correct. And it also gives you notification that you're being recorded, so nobody's blindsided and everybody knows that the meeting is being recorded. It shows a video function on your screen telling you it's being recorded, or if you're entering through a phone call, it will tell you as you enter that the meeting is being recorded. Lastly, you can change the names of anybody in the meeting. So either the person who's in the meeting can change their own name, or the host can change a name. This is really useful if somebody's calling in, because it's just going to show their phone number. So in order for the minute taker to understand, or the board member to understand who's speaking, you can actually, when they introduce themselves, change it to that person's name, so then it'll show up for everybody to see who is speaking. So Matt's going to tell you a little bit about how to hold a regular meeting.
All right, thank you, Mark. So as the main purpose of these virtual meetings is to conduct business, that's the main question that people have, is how to conduct business with a virtual meeting. You're still, just like a regular in-person meeting, you're going to have one person that's running the meeting. Usually that's the host. However, as a host, you do have the ability to designate host abilities to another person on the call. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the host running the meeting, but you should have just one person who's clearly running it. That person is going to watch the time frame, make sure that you're staying on task with everything, following the agenda, not spending too much time on one topic, and then shortfalling on other topics. So you want to keep everything nicely organized and running smoothly. Still going to be following Robert's Rules of Orders as with any meeting. And you also want to make sure that the minute taker can clearly hear and see everything that's going on, so that they can properly record the minutes. Again, if the meeting is being recorded, they can refer back to the recording if they need some clarification, but usually you want to try to get it out as clearly as possible during the meeting. In order for approvals, the facilitator of the meeting is going to call a motion. Depending on how you want to do it, you can either use the chat function or unmute somebody or do the raise your hand for approvals, things like that. But it's usually pretty easy to get approvals as long as everybody is paying attention and kind of using the functions however it works best for them. Finishing off with homeowner forums, you're usually going to put that at the beginning or the end of the meeting. It's probably a little bit better at the end of the meeting. That way a lot of information gets passed on during the bulk of the meeting, and somebody's questions may be answered during that portion, whereas it's at the beginning, you might find yourself saying, we'll answer that later in the meeting. Again, during the homeowner forum, you want each homeowner's name and unit number to be clearly defined for the minutes, and you want to be very specific with the questions and the answers, so that you don't get off topic and it's a little bit easier to follow and record. Next, we will move on to annual meetings with Jen.
Thanks, Matt. So if your association decides that annual meeting virtually is a good fit for you, there is some pre-meeting setup that you do have to do, a little bit more than if you would do an in-person meeting. So once you pick a date, you have to give yourself at least 6 to 8 weeks prior to that date to get all the information to the homeowners, and that they'll be able to receive it. The first information that will go out is a call for nominations for any board positions that are open for that year. The reason why this has to go out early is because anyone who is being nominated for a board position will have to be put on the directive proxy that will go out with the annual meeting packet. Once you send this nomination out, you should give your homeowners at least 2 weeks to get any nominations back to the property management company so that they can make sure the directive proxy has everyone's name on it. Once that 2 weeks is up, the next thing that would go out is your annual meeting packet. The cover letter, the notice of the meeting, will include how you can access the meeting and when the meeting is, how important it is to receive the proxies back. Most meetings have regular proxies, which are just for quorum. Directive proxies also include voting for any voting the association needs to do for that meeting, since it cannot be done in person. Requests for the directive proxies to come back in should be received at least 2 days before the meeting, so this gives time for the property manager and a board member to confirm the quorum and the votes that are going to be discussed at this meeting. So once the meeting date comes, everyone should be logging in at least 15 minutes. That should be included in the notice for homeowners to start getting on the call. Depending on if they're having video and phone call options or just phone call options, that should also be included in your annual meeting notice. Once everyone is on, the meeting would go on as any other annual meeting that you have. When it comes to making sure that you establish quorum, the manager will most likely let the association know how many proxies were received, and then the board member that reviewed that would confirm that, and then that would be put on record for your current annual meeting minutes. All the voting would also be reported the same way, where the manager will give the count, and then the board member who had that information will confirm that count as well. Homeowner forums are also part of your annual meeting. Some of them, there's 2 different ways that associations have been addressing this. One, they've asked for any questions to be received prior to the meeting, and that would be in the annual meeting packet with that. Homeowners would have then until up to the 2 days to the meeting to turn in any questions they may have, either by calling homeowner services or emailing them, and sending those questions in for the manager to group together for the board. The other option is to actually open it up during the meeting, and since you'll possibly have just people attending by phone or a mix of video and phone, there's a couple different ways you can open up your forum. Some you can just unmute everyone and have people state their name and their unit, and then wait for a board member to acknowledge them so they can go ahead and ask the question. You can either start, if you have a mixed group, you can start with just asking the homeowners that have video to either raise their hand or put their question in chat. At any time during the meeting, any questions that are entered into the chat will be answered in the homeowner forum. And then once the video homeowners were addressed, then you could open up to telephone only homeowners, and just to kind of give it a little bit of consistency so homeowners aren't trying to speak over each other, but making sure that they know they need to be acknowledged by a board member before they go ahead with their question, so that the secretary that's recording the meeting has time to write down everything for the annual meeting minutes. Virtual meetings are possible to help an association continue with business as usual, especially when we are not able to be in person, and to keep everyone safe and healthy. If there are any questions about virtual meetings, please leave your questions in the chat, and then once the presentation is over, we will answer all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I know that there was I know we're going to address questions at the end. I know there was a question about why Matt and Mark were sitting next to each other during a virtual meeting. In the beginning, Matt Matt had mentioned that he and Mark are twin brothers. So they are siblings, they are family, and they are still staying safe, but they have been together. So it was safe for them to sit together. So without further ado, we will get on to our next presentation. And as we had said, we'll take any questions at the end of the presentations, and I will get the next one loaded up here shortly. And actually in between, I'm sorry, I forgot. We're going to be taking a few words from our sponsors. This video will come to you from our friends at Reserve Advisors.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Polinsky and I'm with WeatherPro Exteriors. You may have seen some of our commercials and ads and possibly even seen us at local trade shows such as the NARI Home Show. What you may not realize is that we have a commercial and multifamily division. This is where I come in. I represent that division and oversee it. WeatherPro Exteriors was founded in 2008 and we focus on offering the best products along with competitive pricing. We do specialize in roof replacements, shingle and flat, so you've got your steep slope and your low slope options. Gutter replacements and siding replacements. Our crews are knowledgeable and experienced with replacing James Hardie siding, LP Smart siding, as well as mastic vinyl siding. We also have a service division that can handle all of your smaller needs, such as roof maintenance, gutter cleaning, leak assessments and repairs. Along the lines of leak assessments, we will go out and meet with the homeowner, inspect the interior where the leak is occurring, do an inspection of the exterior, and then provide a detailed report to the property manager, as well as pictures and recommendations so that the board has a clear understanding of what we believe the situation to be. So we work with multiple condo associations that are managed by Prospect Management Company, and we do hope to become your preferred roofing contractor.
Hello everyone, my name is Todd Walter and I'm Vice President of Engineering here at Reserve Advisors. At Reserve Advisors, we're strong believers in what Prospect Management is doing for their clients, and today's sponsorship is one way we support their mission. We're excited to be here today for it's sure to be an outstanding program. Established in 1991, Reserve Advisors is the leading provider of reserve study services throughout southeastern Wisconsin. We partner with all types of community associations, from small homeowners associations to large high-rise condominiums. When properly prepared, a professional reserve study promotes a board's ability to protect, maintain, and enhance the communities they serve. Furthermore, management is assured that the independent guidance found within the reserve study report can be relied upon when planning capital projects, preparing annual budgets, and forecasting for the future. Our team provides expert, unbiased guidance to boards and their property managers. So how do we do that? By relying on nearly 30 years of experience conducting reserve studies throughout the local community, ensuring that we do everything we can to provide the most accurate and realistic replacement costs and life expectancies. The engineer that inspects your property and completes your reserve study report is part of a team of trusted long-term partners. When you have a question about anything in your study or related to reserves in general, you can pick up the phone and call that engineer, as we're here to help you indefinitely. We look forward to being a resource for your community associations and your property management team. Thank you.
Water, while an essential element to life, can quickly cause significant damage to property should your plumbing fail or groundwater rush in. Water has a unique ability to flow around and through materials, often becoming trapped in porous items. No homeowner wishes to experience water damage. Preventative maintenance is crucial and more than likely would prevent the vast majority of the water damages we see here at Paul Davis. By simply having a licensed plumber inspect shutoff valves, exposed water lines, sump pumps, and your home's water heater every couple of years, potential areas of concern can be fixed or replaced before it's too late. We also recommend having a licensed HVAC contractor inspect your AC system, especially in the early spring before first turning it on. Condensation lines are prone to becoming clogged and can quickly discharge a tremendous amount of water into your home instead of it being properly routed outside. In our experience, an alarming number of homeowners do not even know where or how to shut off the main water supply to their residence. While most modern homes will have a shutoff near the water heater, many older homes may have their shutoff hidden in a crawl space or tucked away in an inconspicuous area. We also see many homes that do not have a shutoff valve within the house. Instead, the water has to be turned off at the main outside. Finding the main shutoff in the middle of the night under stress is no easy task, especially when one has never taken the time to properly locate it prior. Do not assume that a water damage will never happen to you. Now is the time to be proactive to identify and fix any potential sources of water. Identify where and how to turn the water off. Furthermore, be sure that all members of the household know where the main shutoff is located. Should your property suffer a sudden water damage, it is imperative to quickly begin the mitigation process. While most homeowners are not equipped to properly dry out their homes, simple steps can be taken before the professionals arrive on site. Before beginning any mitigation, safety is a priority for any homeowner or mitigation company. Slips, trips, and falls are the #1 cause of injury. It does not take much water to turn a hard surface floor into an instant hazard. Additionally, never walk into a flooded basement without first assessing the situation for electrical hazards. Take necessary precautions to ensure the power is off before stepping into several feet of water. Overhead hazards, such as wet drywall or ceiling tiles, can quickly lose their structural integrity and fall, resulting in a tremendous amount of weight plummeting to the ground. If possible, after safely assessing the situation, turn the source of water off and begin to move valuables out of harm's way. Remember, carpet and pad can be dried or replaced, the same for drywall and the studs behind it. Never take a chance and add additional injury to yourself or loved ones while in a mode of panic. Whether it's water, fire, mold, storm, or any other disaster, we're available 24/7 to serve you in your time of need. This is no time for second best.
All right, so thank you again to our sponsors that we just heard from, Reserve Advisors and Paul Davis. We have several others that we'll hear from later in the program, and now we will get to our next presentation.
Hi, my name is Nick Clark. I'm the president of Superior Reserve Engineering and Consulting. My firm produces the most accurate, realistic, and user-friendly reserve studies in the industry. You're a board member, you don't get paid, you care about your association, you care about your investment, and you donate your valuable time to make it work and make it better, and we can help you. Reserve studies were too boilerplate. They were drive-by inspections that took pictures, applied generic average useful lives to assets, inserted cut and paste boilerplate text into a report, and spit out a study that wasn't realistic and that a board couldn't implement. I know. I was the director of client services for a legacy company in the industry for 10 years, and that's the feedback I got from 2004 to 2014. So in 2014, I left and took the top engineers with me. They are actual engineers, Wisconsin licensed structural engineers with 20 years of experience. Most firms call their staff engineers, but they aren't licensed and they aren't structural engineers, maybe just a degree in an unrelated engineering field. We do real inspections, hands-on. We don't base projections on generic average useful life tables. Our engineers make specific recommendations based upon the actual condition, and we offer engineering advice as well. We even bring ladders and go up on roofs instead of taking pictures from the ground and assuming a 20-year average life for every roof. If you had a reserve study before and you were disappointed, or if you've never had a reserve study because you heard they weren't realistic, give me a call or an email. I think you'll love what we have to offer.
All right, so what we're going to do here, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go a little bit out of order. I just don't want to continue to hold everything up. So moving forward, we're going to do a little of intro of who is PMC and what do the different PMC teams do. So we have a little presentation from our accounting department and then one from our homeowner services department. So those videos are up and ready to go. I certainly apologize. I underestimated what it would take to get the other ones up and running. So while we watch these ones, we can watch the video about accounting, and then we'll watch one about homeowner services, kind of talking a little bit more about who they are and what they do.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We're going to put on a little accounting presentation for you, just kind of describing some of the things that we do. First, we'll do introductions. My name is Todd. I've been here for a little over 4 years, and when I'm not working, I like to golf.
My name is Devin. I've been here for 6 months, and when I'm not here, I like to work out and play basketball.
My name is Diego. I've been here for 4.5 years as well, and when I'm not counting, I like to play soccer.
Go to the next slide. So just some background of what we do. Each association that we manage has an accountant assigned to it, and we work with a property manager and homeowner services. Some of the tasks that we do is we handle all of accounts payable, accounts receivable, the general ledger, and month and year-end procedures. We'll prepare and review the monthly financial packets before they go to the manager and the board. We'll investigate and answer any questions regarding an association's financials. We'll look into any homeowner ledger questions or discrepancies. We'll work with our bank rep to resolve any bank activity errors, and we'll also work with auditors to complete any audits that our associations are getting done.
As far as accounts payable, we process invoices that we receive by snail mail or email. We look over them to make sure we actually manage those properties and to make sure they're not already in our system. We do weekly check runs. That's where we cut all checks for invoices that were approved by the board and property manager. And we also set up new vendors. We require them to send us their W-9 and certificate of insurance. And lastly, we work with vendors to resolve any past due balances.
With accounts receivable, we process all the payments, whether it's a lockbox or physical checks. We deposit those. We review ledgers around the 15th or 20th of the month to make sure late fees or other charges are charged accurately. We also review late fees, and we work with homeowners regarding any discrepancies on the ledgers. And then if any payments are returned, we also reverse those on the ledgers as well.
So we also will process and review the monthly financial packets for our associations. So the first step to all that is we'll reconcile all of your bank accounts just to make sure that there aren't any erroneous transactions that occurred during the month. So after all of the bank accounts are reconciled, we'll run and review the monthly financial packet. So some of the items that we'll look for when we're doing our review on them is any old unreconciled items. So if there was a check that was issued 5 months ago that still hadn't cleared, we'll ask the property manager if we should void that check, put a stop pay on it, and reissue it. We'll make sure that the balance sheet ties out so that the assets are equal to the liabilities and the equity. If you have any CDs that are coming mature the following month, we'll let the property manager know so the board can make a decision on what they want to do with that CD. We'll make sure that the accounts payable, accounts receivable, and the prepaids all tie out if you're an accrual method association. We'll review the accounts receivable report to make sure that there's no one that's getting behind on their dues, and if they are getting behind, we'll recommend sending them a 10-day letter, basically letting them know that they have until 10 days to resolve their balance, otherwise they can get turned over to a collection agency. And then we'll look at the prepayment report just to make sure that there's no past due homeowners on there, and if there are, then we'll recommend that they get a refund check. So after we're all done with our initial review of the financials, then we'll send them on to the property manager to do their review. And then once they do theirs, then that's when the board gets the financials.
Like most accountants, year end is probably our busiest time of the year. This is when we're closing out the year and reviewing with the boards or property managers and entering the budgets. A lot of GL recodes just to account for any expenses that might have been misapplied. We also accrue expenses if you're not on a cash basis. And like I said before, make any recodes if necessary. We also process 1099s for vendors and associations, and we work directly with our tax accountant closing out the year and paying out taxes if necessary.
So that about wraps it up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to one of your accountants, or feel free to reach out to Laura. Thank you.
All right, so I got some feedback from my helpers here that some folks had a difficult time with the volume on this one. I certainly do apologize for that. We will post all of these videos to our website, as well as send out copies of all of the PowerPoints that are done today. So without further ado, I will move on to the introduction of our homeowner services team.
Hi, I'm Becca. I am the lead of homeowner services. I have an introduction video later on, but for now I just wanted to give you an overview of homeowner services department. So what is homeowner services? Prospect Management created a specific and unique department, homeowner services, to specifically handle all homeowner request questions with two ultimate goals in mind. Getting owners a fast and accurate response to their inquiries. Our goal is to have those inquiries addressed on the first communications, but sometimes we need to do more research and check in with other team members. Freeing up our community managers to be on-site visiting communities that they manage on a regular basis and tend to the overall needs of their community. What are the department responsibilities? So we answer incoming calls, electronic communications from owners who require a response to those inquiries. We manage concerns, troubleshoot significant customer service problems, and we provide general information while providing you with the highest quality customer service. We have a database full of information, both historical and current, that allows us to answer most all questions or concerns owners have. If we need additional clarification, we reach out to appropriate team member for that, and then once we receive that back, then we get back in contact with you. We contact owners back in the same way initially that you heard from us, unless you guys tell us otherwise. What is homeowner services goal? To deliver amazing and exceptional customer service to homeowners and to answer homeowner questions, comments, concerns to the best of their knowledge and resources at hand. We aim to respond within 24 to 48 hours and resolve matters on the first contact. And now you're going to see some videos from my homeowner services team introducing themselves and telling you a little bit about themselves, so enjoy. Hey, I'm Becca. I am the lead of homeowner services. I've been with PMC for about 5.5 years. I actually started as a weekend concierge at one of the condo complexes. I worked there for about 3 years, and then I moved my position and I came into homeowner services, worked here for a while. Then I moved again and did administrative specialist here in the office, and then again moved, and now I'm the lead of homeowner services. So I've been here a really long time, and it's really because I love this place and I love the people here. But when I'm not working as the lead, I'm home with my 2 dogs. They're Shih Tzu mixes. Their name is Storm and Loki. And really I just hang out with them, and I'm in school part-time. So thanks, bye.
Hi, I'm Kelly Schulte, and I've been at Prospect Management, Homeowner Services for about 6 years now. If I'm not here taking care of the homeowners and what I need to do here, I am taking care of my kids and painting and doing yoga at home. I love working here because it's just such a warm family. So, yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tammy Schertz. I have been here about a little over a month, and it was just my 39th birthday a few days ago on November 8th. I enjoy writing and watching YouTube, and also recently setting up my new apartment, being just that I moved. I enjoy the family atmosphere of homeowner services at Prospect Management Company.
Hi, my name is Kendall Morgan. I have been a homeowner services representative with Prospect Management Company for just about a week now. I'm currently on my second week, and so far it's been great. Everyone's been very warm and welcoming here, and that's what I really like about the company that I've experienced so far. When I'm not working here, I'm probably taking a walk down by the lake in Milwaukee. I also like to take my cat out on walks. Like, I literally have him on a harness that I walk him around. And if I'm not doing that, I'm probably listening to a podcast or listening to music. Thank you.
Hi, I'm CJ Armour. I've been at Prospect Management Homeowner Services for about 2 years now. And when I'm not here, again, you can find me walking along the lake, but not with my cat. She doesn't like to go that far. And when I'm not out walking on a lake or in Lake Park, I am reading mystery novels and solving murders. Thanks a lot and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Alana Rogers. I am the Homeowner Services Coordinator. I've been here for about 6 months at PMC, and what I really enjoy about being in Homeowner Services is the aspect of each condo complex is like its own little community. My degree is in sociology, so community and society is the way that my brain functions. I love being able to problem solve and get your questions answered and over to the proper party that it needs to. When I'm not here in the office, I love to be outdoors, hiking, camping, fishing, kayaking, whatever you name it. I've probably been doing it outside. And then I also craft, doing things like ceramics and also crocheting. Just really like to mix it up between the two. So thank you. That's a little bit about me. Have a good day.
All right, so thank you, Homeowner Services. I am ready to load the other manager videos, and we'll get those going so we can go back to the all-important manager how-tos video, and we will get things started with, we'll go next with Mike Leach and Patrick Zimmerman, who are going to talk to us a little bit about how they are and others are navigating these ever-changing, ever-crazy COVID times.
All right, thank you all for taking time out of your day. As you know, I'm Mike Leach, and I have my PCAM and CMCA designations, and this is Patrick Zimmerman with his CMCA designation. Today we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and its impact on our lives. So I will turn it over to Patrick, and we will start this conversation.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us. As you know, COVID has had impacts on all of our lives. So we just kind of want to go through some of those things to start with. So some of the changes that we've had to deal with is stress and anxiety associated with the constant unknown, the feeling of isolation, navigating new hygiene practices, more people working from home, and trying to navigate just the new best practices in general. So let's try to stay positive while staying put. So remember that stress is normal in abnormal situations. Like COVID-19, there's constant changes, and that creates a stressful environment for everybody. If we can all practice gratitude, that certainly goes a long ways. Smile even behind your mask. Smile with your eyes if you can. Keep a consistent sleep pattern, exercise, and choose kindness whenever possible. You'll notice that there are some links included in some of my slides. Keep in mind we will provide these PowerPoint to all participants, and you're welcome to click on those links and check out that information. Just some things that I found interesting when I was researching the topic. So the next item we want to talk about is COVID and our vendors and some of the challenges we faced and some tips to help work through those. So Communicating clear service needs is really important with the vendors, making sure they know exactly what you want them to fix and how you want it fixed, and keeping both employees, the vendors' employees safe as well as the homeowners safe is also going to be one of those major challenges. Some tips for success: you can work with your property manager to create RFPs that'll help with the bidding process and make sure that we get accurate proposals and they're apples to apples. I know that's always key, to get accurate and apples to apples comparisons.
Patrick, tell us a little bit about what is an RFP for those of us that don't know.
So RFP is a request for proposal. So that's a request that details exactly what work you want done and allows for each vendor to bid that exact work. I include photographs with mine, as well as a detail about what their insurance requirements should be, and including all of the work that should be quoted and the time frame that's expected the work to be completed in.
Cool, thank you.
Yep. Ask for photos and detailed descriptions from your homeowners. When they're reporting concerns, it's so often easy for them to just say, this was the problem. But without really seeing it, sometimes it's hard to tell what really needs to be fixed. So if they send you a photo and a detailed description, that'll really help us assign the right vendor to the project. And lastly, just stress the importance of social distancing with all of your vendors, as well as your homeowners and the boards. Just making sure everybody is trying to keep the best distance and do the best practices that they can. So one of the big things that we have with the vendors is sometimes we have client interaction with our vendors. So we want to make sure we're monitoring those situations. We want to increase sanitization practices and hygiene, maintain social distance while working with clients, using smaller crews to avoid exposure, and conducting as much business as possible outside or outdoors in open spaces. So some tips for communicating would be most communication should be done via email and phone calls. That's kind of a difference. We used to do a lot of in-person meetings and walk around properties, but those are more difficult to do. So the use of virtual meeting software has become popular. That comes with its own set of challenges, but everybody has to face that, and we're doing a good job getting those meetings handled as best we can. And an increase in the use of bidding software. This is one thing that I've noticed from a lot of vendors recently are sending us these new fancy proposals that come in this software, and they can be a little bit difficult to navigate. So if you're having difficulty with some of those softwares, make sure you let your manager know so they can break those down into more PDF documents for you and display that information in a way that it's easy for you to follow along and read.
All right, thank you, Patrick. So overall, COVID-19 has had quite a significant impact on the home improvement industry as a whole. Basically, what's occurring is that homeowners, ourselves included and everybody, are more isolated and we're more in our homes and we're being more aware to our surroundings. So the little imperfections that we notice on a daily basis suddenly become big issues that have to be resolved. I will say that this spring and summer has probably been one of the most challenging with how much work has came in from homeowners requesting. And these are homeowners who you typically never hear of. And it's just because they're aware, they see what's going on in the property, and they ultimately want to get those issues resolved because they take pride in their home, and rightfully so. So basically what has resulted really is that there's just this major influx of work across the industry. There's turning out to be a shortage on building materials and supplies. For instance, if you tried to order a refrigerator lately, you know that it takes between 4 to 5 months to get a refrigerator. The same thing is occurring with windows now, where you want windows, you're now 4 months plus out until you get windows. It's affecting siding material, roofing material. So this is having great, significant ramifications across the whole supply and demand chain with building supplies. And it's also caused a labor shortage as well, because we'd like to think that there's just this skilled labor pool of carpenters, but unfortunately there's not. So vendors are stuck with getting more work, having less people available, and ultimately that's causing delays in the work. So one thing we want to focus on is really educating our homeowners, and as a board, being aware of what we can do too. So as Patrick mentioned in this first slide, is that we just need to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more understanding, a little bit expecting of delays due to this increase of work in the home and owner improvement industry. We want to be honest with our owners. We want to make sure that we're giving them accurate timelines, that we're not going to promise this will be done in 2 weeks when it could be 3, 4, 5 weeks out. As you may have known if you tried to sign a concrete quote within any time since August through now, that work's all pushed out to 2021 because the backlog of work it's significant. So as being a board member, the best thing to do is really work with your vendors, get accurate timelines, and make sure you're sharing that with your homeowners. And be open to delays that you're going to experience and be open to sharing that with your owners. We ultimately want to make sure that your homeowners are happy, but being honest and accurate versus nurturing to their concern is probably the best way forward. And give feedback to your vendors too. When a vendor does a good job, make sure they know. When they have an issue, make sure you bring it to them. The vendors ultimately want to have a long-lasting relationship with your association. So the more constructive feedback we can get them, the better off we're going to be. So as you know, COVID-19 has impacted prospect management as well. We're not, So as you know, COVID-19 has impacted prospect management as well. We're not immune to this virus. We are taking steps with ourselves to educate ourselves, as well as sharing that with our clients. For instance, Laura Winpassenger, our Director of Operations, probably on a weekly basis sits in on these webinars for COVID-19, and that information then gets pushed to all of the property managers as well as to our homeowner services staff. And we really do focus on educating our managers and in turn getting that information to our clients. So some safety precautions we are taking is the attendance of meetings. Due to where COVID-19 is at this point in time, we're not going to be attending meetings in person anymore. And some other things are doing property walkarounds, which is a great way for us to interact with you guys when we're out and about in the property. And the thing we got to remember when we do that is we need to keep our distance and potentially wear masks depending on your comfort level. I mean, mask is really, it's a preference, and we should wear them. The CDC says we should wear them, but again, some people may not just agree with that, and that's okay. We just need to make sure we're keeping our distance. And the same goes for homeowner interactions, whereas the manager, as the board members, you really don't want to be going into your homeowners' units. You want to rely on those vendors who do this on a daily basis, that have those safety precautions in place to where they can minimize the impact to your homeowner as well as to themselves. Vendor interactions, another thing, as Patrick mentioned, we're doing quite a bit via email now. Less and less is being done in person. So when we get these work requests, we're asking very specifically from the owner, what is the issue? So the vendor's minimizing their time on the property and potentially exposing others to their illness or being exposed by somebody with their illness as well. And then we also stress, obviously, the importance of personal hygiene with regards to hand washing, sanitizing, and mask usage. So hand washing, I used to work in the restaurant industry, and technically when you wash your hands, it's supposed to be under 120-degree water for 20 seconds, and you're scrubbing and you're washing and you're going like this for 20 seconds, and then you go like that, your hands are clean. Sanitizing, it's a great way to sanitize the surface of your surroundings, but be aware, sanitizing is not cleaning. That is two different things. Sanitizing is only dealing with the surface. When you're actually doing hand washing, that means you're getting the grime and such off your hands. And again, we definitely do stress the importance of wearing a mask. It is suggested by the CDC, every single state agency across the country, to wear a mask. So here at Prospect Management Company, we do have steps to take. One of our employees was to become infected with COVID-19. And the first thing that we do notify all of our staff. Whether or not somebody has tested positive or has been potentially exposed, we notify all the staff just so they can take the safety precautions for their own personal well-being and their loved ones. We'll also notify our clients should there be a potential exposure, and that's going to be within the last 2 weeks. If that employee interacted with those clients, we will at least notify them of the potential exposure. Should a positive COVID test come back, then it would fall on to the local health department when they do their contract tracing, which Laura Winpassenger works with quite a bit. We also constantly review and update our company procedures as needed and required. So as we progress through this pandemic, things are inevitably going to change, and we just want to make sure we're staying on the cusp of that. Safety is our priority for our staff and for our clients, and we do take this pandemic very seriously. The one thing we are very proud of is, to date, we haven't had any employees with positive cases. We've had several potential exposures and several employees who have tested negative, but we have yet to have one come into our office, and we're very grateful for that. And as time goes on, hopefully that continues to be the trend.
And I'd just like to say too, I mean, we are really grateful that our team takes us seriously. It's clear to us that our staff is taking all of the precautions that are outlined by the CDC, and and that these do work when followed properly. So I'd just like to take this quick moment to again thank the team, everybody here at PMC for taking this so seriously and keeping our clients and our staff and our vendors safe.
Thank you, Laura.
So now let's take some time to talk about the board and COVID-19. We do thank all of our board members for dealing with all of these challenges. Boards have been faced with so many new things this year. Let's take this opportunity to discuss those things and maybe some tips for being successful in, as we move through and continue with COVID-19 until such an unknown time. So some of the challenges that some of our boards have faced is understanding and reducing liability exposure. So one of the best things we can do is just reach out to your attorney. If you have questions about your specific association's liability, you should reach out to your legal counsel and make sure that you're taking the steps necessary to protect the association. The challenge we faced is common sense sanitation practices. It's hard to decide exactly what you should be sanitizing. So again, looking to those resources like the CDC and their recommendations and just making the best decisions you can based off the information available to you at the time. We've noticed an increase in owner concerns. Owners are home more now. Everybody's home more, so everybody's seeing more things and complaining about their neighbor more. So just being understanding of that and working through those challenges as they come up and trying to keep communication open. Navigating essential services. I know many of my associations had concerns early on that had interior common spaces and keeping them clean and what work to do this year and what work to hold off on, what's essential and what isn't essential. So just taking a good look at all of those things and working with your owners and the boards to figure out exactly what services you'd like to continue with and what can maybe hold off until a safer time. And there's just obviously been the communication challenges. There's been lots of challenges with communication. It happens. The electronic communication sometimes is garbly or hard to understand. So just being patient and taking your time and asking questions and repeating yourself if necessary and just everybody working together to communicate effectively. So again, some tips for that would be identify the high-risk areas on your property and try to make common sense rules to limit people's exposure. So some of those places would be looking at your fitness centers, looking at your community rooms, and trying to make sure that people understand that they need to minimize their use of them or use them in a safe manner and keep social distancing practices in place. Make sure that owners feel like they're being heard. Make sure that you're responding to them quickly when they do have concerns and detailed responses. Not dismissing some of the concerns that may seem smaller because they may be small to you, but an owner that's facing it every day, it may be a big thing to them. So really just making sure you're being an active listener and then responding appropriately to those concerns. Always consider need to do over nice to do in these times. So is the project necessary? Can it be delayed? Can it just be on the back burner until a safer time? Those are just things that we just need to consider, and we should look at every project through that lens and really think about the importance of the project and its impact that it's going to have on the owners. And regular updates and communication. So one thing that I found a lot lately is those weekly communications can be big for both your boards and sometimes even your homeowners that are affected by certain projects, making sure you're keeping them up to date, especially if there's delays, so they're not just wondering when something's going to happen, but making sure they know this is the timeline. It's been delayed by 2 weeks. So be prepared for that and make sure that your owners are prepared for that.
All right, thank you, Patrick. So we're going to move on to talking about these new unfamiliar business practices that COVID-19 has really forced us to become more and more familiar with, simply due to less interactions with clients and vendors, that more and more of the workforce working from home, and this is really resulting in technology lags and training gaps because we're pushing out this new technology that requires training or requires some potentially watching videos online to really understand how to use this kind of technology. With, for instance, at Prospect Management, since the start of COVID, we invested in a new phone system called RingCentral, which is a VoIP-based system, meaning it's internet web-based. So that allows us as managers and everybody in our office to be able to work from home safely with reducing the exposure to staff in the office. And again, we take the pandemic very seriously. We're also moving to a cloud-based file server, which is also going to allow us to be even more effective when working at home, because we're not going to be tied to our local servers at our office. It's all going to be pushed up in the cloud, which means it's accessible wherever you have internet. We also invested in our web-based software, Vantica. And if you go to our website, PMCWI, we recently had a seminar on there, which shows you the tips and tricks of using Vantica. I do strongly encourage you to stop by and check it out, because as a board member, it gives you lots of tools, and as the property management company, it gives us even more tools to be effective and efficient at our jobs when we're working remotely. And we also provide the tools to our staff, obviously, to work at home safely and to stay healthy, whether that is giving them extra computer screens, a PC versus working on a laptop. So we're doing all we can to make sure everybody's staying happy, healthy, and safe. But let's not forget about your community and the impacts you have. It's really forced you to think outside the box and how to conduct the business for the association. There's a heavy reliance on email now for approvals. And the one thing I wanted to stress on approving things via email is make sure you review your bylaws to where it states, it's usually section 5, about actions taken outside of a board meeting. 99.9% of the time it states that there must be unanimous decisions. So that means if you're approving something via email, all board members must vote in favor, and if somebody votes not in favor, that has to be brought to a board meeting. You cannot approve that. And the biggest thing is when you do approve things via email, make sure they're documented in your subsequent meeting minutes. Your decisions are based off of the minutes, not off of your emails. That the minutes are the official record for the business dealings of the association. We've also done a lot more virtual meetings and conference calls, and Mark in a moment is going to go into a lot more detail on that. And then also just the reliance on the property manager and our on-site vendors to give us feedback and to guide us during this time we're faced with. Use those vendors. They're the ones who are seeing these issues on a daily basis, like your landscapers, or if you have an on-site maintenance guy, utilize them to give you the information to where you can stay safe at home and rely on these people who are, doing the safety precautions necessary to keep themselves safe, but also feeding you the information. This is especially going to be true when winter takes hold, because we're going to be less likely to be out and about as we progress through this pandemic. And as Patrick really mentioned earlier, the follow-up is a vital piece of this whole thing. There's so many moving parts going on right now to where follow-up is inevitable, whether that's from the manager pushing you an update or you asking the manager for an update. Never feel that you're going to overwhelm somebody by just asking a simple question on where do we stand on XYZ issue. My motto is you should work smarter and not harder. So what does that mean? It means really utilize or form committees. If you don't have committees, committees are a great way to get your owners involved to also have ownership in the property versus just being a homeowner. Committees also do face challenges because you, as a board member, are that leader for that committee. You have to motivate that committee, and you need to let them function outside of the board. You don't want it to come down where the board tells you to do this. You want to have it as a give and take relationship where you're open to their feedback and they're open to your feedback. And once you get those nuances hammered out with the committee, they become a tried and true machine for the association. And as we said earlier, with regards to maintenance requests, is really asking clarification from homeowners when you don't understand something. I can't tell you how many times we get emails where it says, oh, I have a loose piece of siding, can you come out and fix it? What is that? I don't know what that means. There's a loose piece of siding somewhere, we better fix it. So what we tend to do is ask for pictures. Pictures makes life easy, or if they don't have that ability, to give very specific locations. It's on the west side of the building, above the second story window on the far corner, on the south corner, however they describe it, just so, again, when we're sending out vendors, they're minimizing their time on the property. And finally, really just staying educated as yourself. There's plenty of educational seminars out there. One you can go with CAI or the other various condo-affiliated associations.
And even the PMC website.
And the PMC website, because we are uploading all these webinars. And one nice thing is moving forward as of December and through the next year, we're going to have a new webinar every month, and we will release topics as they come out. So please check out our website. So with that said, thank you all, and we'll transition this to whoever is talking next.
Thank you again for joining us. I'm Laura Wind-Passenger. I'm the Director of Operations for Prospect Management.
And I'm Erica Yaramovich. I am a Community Manager.
In a little bit, Mike and Kyle are going to be joining us as well, but in order to maintain social distancing, we'll have to do a magical swap of roots. So when they come up, they'll introduce themselves as well. We're going to talk a little bit about communication and some tips to creating community, promoting harmony and peace within your association. I think we can all agree that now more than ever, it's important to be open and communicate with your community so that people can feel like they know what's going on and that they're still a part of the community. So now more than ever, communication is going to be key to building the trust, harmony, and peace within your association. There's just so much uncertainty right now, and it has a lot of this uncertainty has owners on edge and feeling isolated. Everyone's home more often, I think, as we all know, based on the call logs and the communication within our office, and they have more free time, which, you know, looking to the positive, it's always good. I mean, we always say owners are the eyes and ears and folks that live on site. You know, we can't be everywhere, so it's nice that we're getting a little bit more feedback on what is or what isn't going on within the community. I think it's important to remember that, you know, financial hardships due to the reduction or loss of income are something that we're going to be facing here as well. And there again, keeping the lines of communication open, reminding folks, hey, if you're experiencing troubles, let us know. It's, you know, obviously you can't forgive association dues, but perhaps you can set up payment plans or just kind of alternative payment options. So really lucky to live in a time where technology helps us keep in touch and opens the line of communication. Kind of like we're doing here today. We're coming to you virtually. But you can record videos, you can you know, send out e-blasts, post things on your portal, all sorts of different ways that you can communicate with your association. And, you know, the traditional ways in which we typically get together, we can still get together. It's just we need to keep social distancing in mind and rethink how we do things. And really, you can do anything. And the next slide here is just what I think is a real true example, kind of most recently how all of us did that, is, you know, trick-or-treating, pandemic style, where there's a will, there's a way. People really got creative this year so that our goblins and ghouls could still safely trick-or-treat. I mean, I think, you know, the kids have kind of, well, we've all missed out on a lot, but the kids especially. And, you know, while the large, crowded, citywide, you know, events were canceled, I think we all saw a lot of smaller neighborhood-based candy distribution that still took place. And, you know, in the slide here is a couple of different options. I know in my community we had, like, you know, some people had tables set out, some people had the chutes. So there was one with like a pulley system. People were throwing all sorts of different ways to get their kids their candy. And I know my kids had too much. So my husband and I did as well. So with that, Erica's going to talk to us a little bit about newsletters.
Hi. So newsletters are a great way for the association to communicate different things that are going on within the association. It can be used for, you know, talking not only about just safety and other precautionary items. It can be something fun too, where you can add in different items from maybe different people throughout the association, recipes and things like that. But a good use for it would be an introduction of board members, especially, you know, with annual meetings coming up, just maybe doing a quick recap on one of the board members or all of the board members, letting the association know who's on the board and what their positions are. You can talk about any kind of events that might be coming up on the property, if there's any kind of projects that might be happening or projects that may have been completed, such as, you know, the fall gutter cleaning, or, you know, if there's some kind of project where they're doing something like with the parking lots and cars need to be moved. It's a great line of communication so everyone in the association knows what is coming up and maybe what has been done throughout the association. With winter coming, you can use a newsletter just for different topics on winterization or maybe winter parking or snow plowing, things like that, just to give everyone an idea of what to expect for the winter, and then all the other seasons, you know, fall cleanup items, summer, spring, etc. If you have any kind of security issues on the property, it's a great way to let other owners know in the community what's going on. Unfortunately, things happen, and you know, there may be car break-ins or suspicious activity. It's a good way to give a heads up to let everyone know. We want people to be safe and let people know, hey, we've seen this going on. If you see anything, report it, or just, you know, keep your eyes open, and if you know, just take care of it right away instead of not saying anything and then, you know, having a bigger issue. So it's a good way to communicate that. Kyle will be talking about community events, but you could have a calendar on your newsletter with the different community events that may be going on, maybe in the future, or maybe community events that have happened, and just a recap on how well the events went. And then other lines of communication, announcement of new owners, maybe issues between neighbors, how to handle those. If there's maintenance issues, just a recap of how to address those kind of issues. We talked about finances, if there's issues with that, maybe how to address those kind of issues. You know, you can always call homeowner services as well if you don't feel comfortable, you know, reaching out to a board member. That's what homeowner services is for, so we can help with that. And then it's something that we can post right away on the portal, and we can also do a broadcast email so you can get it right away. It doesn't cost anything, and it's just a great way to communicate with each other in the community on what's going on.
Awesome. I think a couple of other really important, like, great things that you can include in a newsletter would be, you know, announcing and welcoming new owners. You know, some associations will list those in there. And then just like a simple financial summary. I think you don't need to get too out of control or too detailed. I think it's a great opportunity where you can just get a few of the numbers out to folks without those big, overwhelming, like the P&L and the balance sheet. That can be kind of scary to some folks. So not scary to us because we see them all the time. So with that, Erica and I are going to magically disappear.
Hi, I'm Mike Eldorf. I'm a community manager here at Prospect Management Company, and I'm going to be talking about welcome committees and making a welcome basket, which can include a couple bottles of wine, some cheese, some crackers, put together a welcome packet within the welcome basket. That can also include a calendar of events, a current newsletter, parking guidelines, that's very important. There's some associations that don't have extra parking or visitor parking, so you need to know exactly where you should be parking and what space is assigned to your unit. Some
associations are very strict.
That's true.
And they will tow.
And they will tow and they will fine.
If you don't park in the correct space.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That is correct. And amenities such as swimming pools, green space, and maybe like a park area that your children could play in would also be outlined in the welcome basket and welcome packet as well. The rules and regulations are very important to know what they are. A lot of new homeowners claim they don't get that information, but this welcome committee can go through and sit down and explain to the new homeowner what the rules and regulations are and what they are allowed and not allowed to do. Then you can also get a card, a welcome, a nice greeting card from the board welcoming new homeowners. You can also the board could do a video with an introduction of the property, rules and regulations that you can refer to from time to time if you have questions about what is allowed at your association, such as rules and within the rules and regulations,
and I think,
or not.
Yeah, during these times, I mean, I think, you know, we're happy to step in and help the board create something like that. We've become a little bit more tech savvy. You know, we're by no means a production crew, but we can kind of slap some things together, and would be more than happy to work with your community on getting something together.
Sure. Yep. That'd be a great idea. And then the last and final item is to explain and encourage how to become involved on committees, the board, and being a new homeowner, you can offer a new, fresh perspective to your community, as well as to the board of directors, if you can, if you're interested in getting voted on. or
Yeah, I mean,
becoming
maybe
a
some
board
people
member.
are ready to take a break, and new owners. I think we all know they come in and they're full of ideas and they're full of energy. Some of them.
That's true. That is true. That is true, and that's needed in some communities.
Yes.
So, right now I'm going to turn this over to Kyle. Magically, he will appear. Well, he's already there.
He's already there.
My name's Kyle. I'm a property manager here at Prospect Management Company. I'm here to cover some events. These are just some things we think that could build community inside your association, allow people a chance to meet one another and get to know one another. Of course, these are a little bit more limited just due to the circumstances with COVID-19 and everything we want to social distance, wear masks, that sort of thing. But these are some ideas that maybe you can pick up in the springtime or when things get better, or maybe just include the social distancing guidelines. So block parties would be a good idea, fitness club events, book cards or card clubs, that could be really fun, meeting with some friends and getting together to do some card games. Holiday parties could be fun. Group rummage sales, I think one of my communities came up with a group rummage sale idea here in the late summer, and that turned out pretty good. Chili cook-offs or town hall meetings, sidewalk art competitions could be really fun. Break out of the condo and go out and draw on some sidewalks. I think that'd be fun. Door balcony and patio decorating contests.
Of course, within the document,
rules,
within
right.
the rules and regulations.
Mhm.
Some associations may not allow for that, so that might not work. Maybe an association, because of these changing times, wants to make a temporary exception for this contest to kind of create some additional fun and cheer.
Snowman builds. This sounds like it could be a lot of fun. You could have a committee make some kits, maybe go to Goodwill, get some scarves, get some carrots and pieces of charcoal for the eyes and distribute them out and have people make some snowmen. You could also encourage owners to send in some photos to post on the portal of their Christmas tree or their menorah. Maybe people are really into making creative masks and they want to show off their mask that they made.
I've seen some really cool ones, especially over Halloween. There was some neat ones too. So, maybe some people are buying cool masks or kind of making their own cool masks.
Or maybe they want to share a new hobby or skill they've picked up as we've been quarantined and stuck inside. They've picked up a new hobby or skill that they want to share, or some tips on how they're staying sane as this drags on. We all could use some new tips and tricks on how to stay sane while being inside. So thank you very much for joining us. We're happy you could make it.
All right, so thank you again, everyone, so much for joining us, bearing with us, and we will now get on to what is always the highlight of our event, the Stump the Attorney. So let me find, I see Dan. Hey, Dan.
Hi, Laura. Oh, I'm unmuted. Excellent.
Yep, I unmuted you, and then let me find Lydia. Lydia?
Hey, Laura.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, thank you again so much, you guys, for joining us tonight. And, as I said, this is everyone's favorite portion of our event, and we are just so grateful for you guys and your support and participation. And that, your videos are coming in clear, and I think everyone's relieved, myself included, that I don't have to load any more videos. So with that, I will turn it over to you guys. We've got quite a few people here in our team that are monitoring the chat, and I don't know if you guys want to kind of tell a little bit about yourselves for those who may not be familiar with you, although I think most everyone is, would still probably be a good idea. And then we will open it up for questions.
Sounds
Lydia,
good.
you want
Go ahead, Dan.
Mine will be real short because I actually managed to be sick the last week. So all's fine, but I may end up coughing here and there. Our firm's Hush Blackwell, and we being Lydia and I and our condominium team, we practice significantly in the area of condominium and HOA law. And I think we represent more associations than anybody else in the state in that area. And we feel pretty confident that we can respond to most questions. If you happen to be an HOA, here's just some good news. If you're a homeowners association and not a condominium association, which most of the people on this call probably aren't. Yesterday, we completed a call with the realtors and the other lobbyists, and we have a pretty decent chance of getting a bill passed for HOAs that'll be similar to the condo bill. All right, that's it for me.
That's great news, Dan. Hi, everybody. I'm Lydia Chartre. I co-lead the condo and HOA law team at Husch Blackwell with Dan. We've got a great team that works with us of paralegals and associates. And the other cool thing about our law firm is, you might not know, it's quite a large law firm. So even though we practice in the condo and HOA arena, there's many other attorneys that do other specialties that sometimes come into play for your condo association or HOA. So we have internal resources that can really help out for bankruptcy litigation, for construction defect litigation, for environmental concerns, DNR stuff, municipality concerns. We've got people that are really well connected all throughout the state in different counties. So that can be very helpful as well. So with that little introduction, happy to take your questions. I'm not really sure what the format is, but Laura, I hope you can lead us through.
Oh, I sure will, or at least I'll try. So it looks like we do have a question. Is there any liability for an association that authorizes events in their clubhouse during the continued COVID-19 pandemic? What would the best practice be in your opinion?
Wow, what a great question. Lydia, you want this one?
I can start and then Dan can fill in if he wants to. Basically, what we've been advising our association clients with use of common space during COVID is, we'd love to tell you that you could just make it sort of user beware and the association has zero responsibility or liability, but unfortunately, that's probably not the case. You do have to take some precautions. And therefore, it's all in the planning ahead. And it's all kind of individual based on the board's risk tolerance in your particular association. We've had a number of associations with boards taking the position that we're just going to close the clubhouse, we're going to close down the common elements, and that's okay. You do have that authority, most likely, in your documents, because usually your documents say the board gets to control common elements. So if you want to shut it down, you probably can for a short period of time for a good reason. But many other associations have taken sort of a in-between approach where you plan ahead, you make rules and let all the owners know about what the expectations are with use of those common spaces. And if you're going to allow owners to use the space, make sure that they are aware of what those rules are, whether it's the limiting of the number of people that can be there, socially distanced, wearing masks, and then have cleanup protocols in place. If you put those rules out there and say, we're not liable if you follow these rules, this kind of on you guys, as long as you have those rules in place first, you're much better positioned to have an argument that the association did everything it could to help the owners out. Anything else, Dan?
No, that sounded good. I mean, basically, my basic view on that is the association can do what they want. The burden of proving that someone obtained COVID-19 as a result of some event at the association is also a high hurdle. So there's high hurdles on both sides of this. Most of our associations, if not all, have been trying to do the right thing. The problem is it's hard to know exactly what the right thing is, because if you're asking this question and the way it's worded, I mean, there are people who are firmly in the camp of no common element should be open at any time because it puts all of us at too much of a risk. And there are people who are firmly in the camp of all of our common elements should be open and everybody beware. Well, let's just say reasonable minds could differ on which approach is the right one, or if some middle ground is actually the better approach. and it's hard to get everybody to agree on what the right approach is. There's a non-answer. All right, what else we got?
Okay, so we have Jim. He's got a couple of questions. He has 3 questions actually, and so he has. I'm going to just unmute him while he asks his question. So if anyone else is more comfortable in that format, just kind of put your name down in the chat too, and I can do that. So Jim.
Yes.
Okay.
It's easier for me to do this than try to type. One question I think Dan just answered was our legal responsibility as an association with the COVID. So I think the answer to that we're going within the county guidelines here in Dane County, doing the best we can and asking people to be responsible themselves. So I think he answered that question for me. Another question I have is, now the holidays are here, we historically have had a Christmas tree in our storage area and people have put it up and taken it down. We've had our buildings got much more diversified the last few years. And I guess one of our questions was, where do we cut that off as far as providing a Christmas tree or other sorts of holiday decorations for other people's other beliefs? We've kind of got the viewpoint that our community room, if you want to use it for whatever you believe in for the holiday season, go ahead and decorate it, take it down when you're done. We just didn't want to get in any trouble with favoring one. That's my question there. And we have them answer that one first, and I'll jump at the third one.
So let me jump on that one. So the problem with all of those types of items is I would be inclined to say, go ahead and have your Christmas tree. And just as you are doing, I would be inclined to say, and if someone else has some other religious holiday they wish to follow, they are welcome to put up some reasonable, similar item. I'm going to put it that way. The problem will become when 5 or 6 or 7 different organizations want to put up 5 or 7 different items, and then it becomes overly crowded. At first, that won't be a problem, and hopefully it never is. And if it becomes a problem, then the board will end up deciding, sorry, we're not going to allow any further decorations in the whatever common area because it's too much of a headache. I think your solution for right now is we will allow up anything reasonable, and then you guys can make the decision on reasonable.
Yeah, we've asked people that basically got the viewpoint for this year, Dan, of let them decorate how they want it, and then when they're done in the community room, they're supposed to take all those things down, just like they're supposed to clean everything up when they're all done. So I think we'll stay with that. That they decorate it, they take it down, somebody else can do what they want. Okay. My last question is, our situation here, we have a building that is the top 3 floors are condos owned by the Unit Owners Association, and the first floor is a commercial owner. He has 1 vote in our, I think he's considered an owner. He has 1 vote in our process of annual meetings, whatever. It's never been where he's been one of our board members, but as a unit, considered as a unit owner, he would be eligible to be a board member.
Yes.
Likely, yes.
Okay, just because we were looking for people who are interested in the building. He, of course, is, because he owns the whole first floor, a lot of commercial properties. And he's mentioned it, and I said I'd look into it, because that's never been, in my 8 years here, it's never been addressed before. So I just thought I'd ask.
It's really interesting because a lot of those condominium documents where you've got a commercial or retail owner is in the mix, they'll specify that those folks have a seat on the board no matter what, because normally it's kind of a minority situation. So they might not get elected if there's too many residential owners voting against, that kind of thing. So if your documents aren't written like that, it would be the same as any other unit owner. He'd be eligible to have a board seat. And that would be great, I think.
So I saw one on here from Sue Mahalski. Did Dan say there's a difference between HOA and condominium association? If so, what's the difference? The answer is there's a huge difference, just so everybody knows. The condominium association, by definition, is declared. So your declaration is going to say you're a condominium association subject to Chapter 703. So there's an entire chapter of the Wisconsin statutes written about condominium associations and how they are governed. There is next to nothing written on HOAs and how they are to be governed other than the basic corporate law, assuming they're a Chapter 181 corporation. So my answer is they're not the same and you can't treat them the same.
Can I add to that, Dan?
Absolutely.
So the other distinction too, when we talk about HOAs, we're usually referring to single family home subdivisions. So not condominiums, but they are single family homes that are organized as homeowners associations. If you're a condo and you refer to your association as an HOA, you're not wrong. So that's where it gets confusing because many condos refer to themselves as homeowners associations. But just for the purposes of our legal discussion tonight, if we're talking about HOA, we mean single family homes subdivision. And if we're talking about condo associations, we're talking about those declared under Section 703 of the statutes. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks, guys. So we do have another question from an owner regarding the events in the clubhouse. Our association rents the clubhouse only to owners and not to outside people. The use would only be to owners and their immediate family friends. Does this change the possibility of liability?
Nope, I would say it's exactly the same. I mean, sure, you have a little smaller window of people that can possibly use your clubhouse, but the association still faces the same legal issues, which is you want to make sure that you're limiting your liability and making sure that the owners are following the practices that you as a board think are practical and what you should be doing during COVID. So even if you are out limiting the use of the clubhouse to guests of the family, owners, you'd still want to have the same kind of rules in place before you allow that use, just to protect yourselves as an association.
Dan, do you concur?
I do concur. I'm looking at it from a different, I was not reading it that this was a COVID question, but as Lydia answered it, it really became a COVID question.
Everything's about COVID these days.
Yeah, I was reading
Where
it.
are you living?
I was reading it more from the standpoint of what's the risk if you rent this to a non-owner? And your biggest risk of renting it to a non-owner versus an owner, besides for owners tend to care more about the property or / renter, someone who currently lives there, and therefore you have other economic means from which to collect from them. So if a non-owner, non-resident rents your clubhouse for whatever reason and creates damages, you've got a difficult time collecting from them. Where if an owner or resident, subject to well-written rules, causes damages or does something else that creates liability for the association, you have the possibility, depending on what happened and how it happened, of assessing those charges back to either the unit owner / renter or whatever makes sense under those circumstances. So although liability might not change, your strengths as an association are much better against owners / renters.
Good point. I received a question privately through chat, which is really nice as well. And if anyone else maybe isn't comfortable in coming forward and they want to just slide me a private message, you can certainly do that as well. So this person is asking, how do you handle situations where a resident owner refuses to wear a mask due to medical conditions? We have signs posted throughout our community that masks are required, yet this particular owner refuses to wear a mask when in the common space.
I actually think there's some law out there, and I would have to look, but that if it inhibits your breathing, I mean, there are people with asthma and other respiratory problems that literally cannot wear a mask. You can't force people to wear a mask where it would endanger them to wear the mask.
And I think maybe a follow-up to that would be, how does somebody prove, or can boards require someone to prove that they cannot wear a mask?
Yeah, I mean, I think this falls similar to the emotional support animal issue, which comes up regularly, which is, how do I prove I need an emotional support animal? You have a doctor say you need an emotional support animal. You have a doctor say you can't wear a mask. And
do you think it would be within an association's, within the board's authority to ask that owner to provide a note from their doctor?
Yep.
Okay.
I agree. And I actually just advised an association on that exact question earlier this week. And that's basically what I said was, yes, some people probably will have a doctor's excuse that they don't have to wear a mask. So go ahead and ask for it. Tell them that the board will keep it confidential. I mean, they're not going to broadcast to other owners what somebody's particular medical issues are, but they probably will need to communicate to the owners saying, this is our rule. We have got a mask mandate within our building, but there are some owners that have medical conditions and we are exempting them based on the doctor's notices or letters that they've provided. So people don't get in others' faces about you're not wearing a mask, because that can happen too. So it's best to just communicate.
Yeah, so there's a couple of follow-ups on that. Somebody is indicating that due to privacy laws that there's no need to prove.
There's no need to prove what? That you have a medical condition that requires you to wear the mask. You just can claim it, and therefore it's true, allegedly. I'm not sure that's true. What privacy law says that?
They're probably thinking about HIPAA. I said this is the other part of the conversation I had with this other association was, if that's the case, I mean, ask all day for them to give a doctor's note, but if they don't, and they just claim that they have it, and they're claiming because of HIPAA laws, they shouldn't have to disclose this. I don't know what the line is. I mean, I know with emotional support animals, that information does have to be provided to the board. It would be interesting to see where this went if somebody pushed it. But what I told the board in that instance was, listen, do your best to just tell them you'd like the proof. If they don't provide it to you, you have to weigh at that point, is it worth it to really push it with this owner and perhaps find yourself in a lawsuit? It's up to the board at that point if that's good enough for the owner to say, well, I have this condition and I don't want to have to prove it to you. Up to them, I suppose.
Okay.
But I would be taking the position of, you don't have to prove a medical condition to me. I'm not asking you to prove any medical condition to me. I'm asking you to provide me with something from a doctor that says you have something that causes you to be unable to wear this mask. I don't care what the something is, because I have no interest in your personal medical issues. I simply care that you're not deciding you don't want to wear a mask because you don't want to wear a mask, and you're more than happy to put other people at risk, theoretically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a good point too. So you could just simply require a doctor, just like a doctor's excuse from work, just simply stating that so-and-so due to medical reasons is not required and signed by a doctor.
Right.
You don't even need to go in the note. It wouldn't even need to go into the requirement, but I think, I think that's a really good idea. One other follow-up on this is, can you make them wear a face shield instead of a mask?
That I don't know the medical stuff. I mean, if a face shield really is better for folks that have asthma, meaning it doesn't constrict their breathing as much, that might be true, but that's more of a medical question, I think, than a legal question.
Yeah, I got nothing on that either. I don't know the answer because I've never had it come up, and it would be interesting, but if somebody's wearing the face shield,
something that you could ask that person, say, oh, before going into the doctor thing where people might get nervous, perhaps you could just say, oh, would you consider a face shield if a a mask is too difficult, and then you could go into the doc. That's a good point. Okay. So going back up, I had another one in my private chat. Could you share some ideas on how condominium homeowners can become informed with statutory changes which will impact their property for better or worse? Also, please comment on what items are being considered on the state level that will have impact on condominiums.
Well, how about I'll take the first one and Dan can take the second. And there's a good reason for that because Dan is on the Legislative Action Committee for CAI. So he's on the front lines of any law changes that are going on with condos and HOAs, as he insinuated with his opening comment. But on the first one, how do you get boards informed and educated? I have a couple ideas, a few actually. The first one would be having your board join our trade group, CAI, which those of you that aren't familiar, it stands for Community Associations Institute. And it is the premier trade group for condominium and HOA purposes. It's something that your board should be involved with because there's a bunch of educational opportunities. And yeah, there is an annual membership fee, but the best part is you can certainly build that into your budget. Boards, there's no reason why the association shouldn't be paying for the board to have opportunities to get educated and up to date on law changes and things that affect your association every day, every month, every year. So that would be a great way to do that. The other idea is look for blogs. Look for education out there on community associations, not only through CAI, but our law firm, Hush Blackwell, has a blog you can subscribe to. We try to keep it updated regularly with all the new law changes that are coming down the pike, and also just some practical advice for things that come up in everyday association life. So if you look for blogs to subscribe to that are association specific, that's a really great way to keep up to date on things as well. And then about those law changes.
Yeah, adding to Lydia's, if you're going to look for a blog, make sure you know that the person writing the blog knows what they're talking about. So if it's a legal one, at least make sure whoever it is a CCAL lawyer. And I'm not, you can use whoever, you can follow whatever you want to follow. But generically, the College of Community Association Lawyers, you only get to be there if you pretty much know what you're doing. So that's my comment on that. As to law changes, here's some good news. There's in the condo world, there's not likely going to be much this year because the various parties are sticking right now, at least it seems like, to the HOA Act. Having said that, here's really the truth. What everyone is doing behind the scenes in December, we don't know about, and before December, we don't know about until January when all the bills start showing up, or the drafts of bills or the draft legislation. So although right now, neither the realtors, the builders, the Register of Deeds, the surveyors, I think that's everybody I can think of, or us right now have a particular proposal that I'm aware of. You never know. But if something comes, if I see something in January or February, I will make sure everybody knows, because then I might be asking many of you to come to the Capitol and actually just come on Bill Day and talk to the legislatures. If we're for it, great. And if we're against it, great. Because I got to tell you, there is nothing that matters more to legislatures and legislators than having people show up. Because most of the time, nobody shows up. So if you can get people there, you can change their minds.
All right, and Mike Farrell had a good plug in too. He's always a great CAI advocate, reminding everyone that an entire board can join for about $325 a year. Lots of free seminars, lots of good information, and something here that Prospect, just tell your manager and we can take care of the rest. So we can take care of getting your board signed up. We can take care of authorizing the payment. We can handle all of that for you. So it really, really, really is easy to join CAI. Not to turn this into a CAI plug fest.
So Well, and you also have that great education you get from Prospect trade shows.
That's true. I forgot that big one.
And we've been loading up our website too. We've got lots of videos on our website. So I've got a few more questions in my private chat, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any public ones. So can an association limit who is allowed to access the common areas, like the pool or the fitness room, to strictly unit owners only, no guests?
The answer is yes, as long as by unit owners you mean residents. If by unit owners you mean unit owners and not renters, the answer is no, because you'd be violating the Fair Housing Act. And if you mean by unit owners you mean adults and not children, then again the answer is no, because you'd be violating the Fair Housing Act.
Okay.
Lots of ways to trip up there. We can help.
Let's see here. What's the best way to deal with two owners? Oh gosh, we hear this all the time. Two owners who constantly complain against one another, and time after time they're calling the police for noise disturbances, issues, just a couple of people that just cannot get along.
Unfortunately, or Lydia, your turn, but go ahead.
Yeah. Dan needs a break. His voice needs a break. Yeah, so first of all, absolutely keep encouraging the owners to call the police when it's something that the police can step in and handle. Because Lord knows the board has plenty of other things to do, and you're not the condo police, right? You're not walking around looking for violations and slapping fines on people. That's not your job. So if owners are calling the police on each other, and it's for a reason, let the police handle it. The more that the police can handle and the board doesn't have to be involved, the better. But if you've got these owners, and I know you do, because I hear about it all the time, that complain to the board about the other owner, here's a couple of tips and tricks. First, remember, the board only has to enforce the condominium documents. That's your job. If what they're complaining about does not violate your condominium documents, there's nothing you need to do. If you get a complaint that arguably does violate your condominium documents, the best thing that you can do is be prepared, be proactive, have a good enforcement policy in place that you just have to follow step by step, and no brainer. We're not thinking about, are we weighing whether this is a good complaint, bad complaint, indifferent? This is just the process we're going to follow. Because eventually it's going to be a pain for the one owner or the other if they get complained about and vice versa, and they have to deal with fines, warning letters, grievance actions, all those kinds of things, that it may just finally dawn on them that it's not worth it for them to fight with the neighbor anymore, or they may move. But if you follow it that way and do it consistently, you're setting yourself up for success as a board. What do you think, Dan? Anything more?
No, I like that. I mean, basically my answer is always require them to come up with a form that they have to take the time to actually fill out, and require them to actually fill out the form. You're not going to deal with it unless they fill out the form, list the witnesses, take the pictures, do all the steps, and then say, yeah, we're going to have a hearing. Come to the hearing. Make them do work. And then at least if they have a legitimate gripe, they can prove their gripe. If it's not a legitimate gripe, it's going to look that way. But therefore, they have to do work as opposed to the board has to do the work.
Exactly. And that'll weed out a lot of the frivolous complaints if they don't want to do the work.
All right, thanks, guys. Just in case anyone missed it in the chat, Lydia did send out the link to their blog, and we will also provide the link to their blog and the materials that we send out after tonight's event. I've got another question here in my messages. How soon can condo associations have the first claim on a delinquent owner's assets during a foreclosure action?
That's kind of a strange way to ask, how quickly can I sue? Is that really what that's asking?
How can I get at their money?
I think, and maybe he'll answer me, but I think that maybe they're getting, you know, how do they get to be first in line? I'm not.
So this is actually.
I'm not familiar offhand with the collection issues within this association. Just off the top of my head, I'm kind of familiar, but I think maybe by the time they've filed, maybe there's been others in front of them or something.
So this is actually a perfect example of why we're working on the HOA law. So in condominium world, there's a difference from HOA world here. In condominium world, so assuming this is a condominium, you are third in line. There's nothing you can do to change that. You can make yourself worse by not timely filing your lien, not timely foreclosing your lien, not knowing what you're doing relative to liens. You can put yourself in a worse position. There's literally nothing you can do to put yourself ahead of taxes or a previously recorded first mortgage. It's just how it is. HOAs, you are whatever in line you are based on the time that you file your lien, and there's a really short time frame to file your lien, which is why I'm working, or we're working, or the LAC is working so hard to change that law so that you become third in line, behind taxes, behind the first mortgage, but that puts you ahead of the second mortgage, it puts you ahead of credit card debt, puts you ahead of judgments. A lot of times there's medical facilities that might have judgments. I mean, those are the types of things that gives you the opportunity to be ahead. So the best thing you can do is, if you're a condo, timely file your lien, and if once it's 60 to 90 days past due, send it for collection. I don't care, but your chances of recovering are so much better the sooner that you get it to collection, once they're significantly behind.
Okay, so I have somebody else that's asked me to unmute, Mike Farrell. He's actually the one who had asked the question, and he asked that I just unmute him so that he could kind of explain where he's coming from. So Mike, are you there?
I am. If you can hear me, I'm just wondering, you know, we have some people that haven't paid for a long time, and they'll probably lose their property to the bank. Okay, in the meantime, we've been covering all of the common expenses that would normally have been shared by them. And it's like, we don't have anything to do, but I know that from following other things that there are some states where at least you get 6 months worth of back assessments before the first mortgage holder gets, you know, to take over. They have to make up at least some of the maintenance of that. Is there any possibility that that will happen in Wisconsin?
Possible someday, possible in the near term, no. And here's the short, we actually wrote that law a couple of years ago. The banks fought it like crazy with, in my opinion, just blatant lies. And the realtors were not willing to go against the banks. And if you don't have the bank lobby or the realtor lobby on your side, you almost have no chance in Madison. And I'm going to be blunt about it. The bank lobby says, well, then we're going to stop financing places because it's too much of a risk for us. I'm like, yeah, that $1,000 or $2,000 is really a big risk on your $100,000 mortgage. I'm not believing their story, because there's 22 states that have those lien priorities. Lisa Ogle. This is an area I know way too much about. There's 22 other states who have a lien priority statute. We should have one. We just need more political clout to do it.
So keep coming to those Capitol days. Whenever CAI is calling you guys to say, please come and support and, you know, talk to your legislators, that's a real thing. Because like Dan said, they don't listen unless you talk. So talk and tell them this is a priority and something that they should support.
What if I'm in a strongly Democratic area and my legislature doesn't want to hear from me at all? Do I talk to other legislators, or?
Either your senator or your representative, both sides don't.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Neither your senator nor the representative will listen to you.
Yeah, Linda Taylor has her own thing. She's been our person in the state senate, and there's somebody else that's new, and I just don't know that they're open to what we have to say to them. Okay.
Oddly, they should be. I mean, they should be, because especially if you could go there with 3 or 4 or 5 different unit owners who are all owners in their district.
Okay.
I think you'd have a better chance and say, listen, we just want to talk to you. We want to explain to you a problem we're having.
Okay.
That would be, yeah, if we could get somebody on board, I'm happy to fight this fight again with you.
Okay. No, I'm thinking that, I'm getting ready to serve a 3rd term, 3 years. And so I'll have more time in that 3rd term than I do right now. Right now, I just got to get to the owners meeting and make sure that they don't vote me out.
Okay. Right, Mike.
All right.
Mike, they would never. All right, I have just one more question that came into my chat, and then we are going to have to cut things off for the night. We have had over 45 minutes with you guys, and we really appreciate it. So the question was, so our association has a neighbor with a fence in disrepair. Some parts are missing, other times pieces of the fence fall onto our common area. Is there anything that we can do?
Sure. It'd be great if that neighbor was part of the condo, because then we could just repair it and assess them for it, right? But they're not. So yeah, I mean, you're stuck with the typical neighbor to neighbor litigation type options, right? You tell them you got to get your stuff fixed so it stops falling on our property. Perhaps reach out to the municipality and see if there's any ordinances that they're failing to live up to. It might be a blight, it might be something that the city or county might put some pressure on the neighbor to fix it up.
I mean, if it's just falling apart, you got to think it's a nuisance. I mean, I would hope it would be considered a nuisance, and maybe an attractive nuisance, and the kids are playing by it. And if nothing else, encourage kids go play by it, because there's nothing that can break down a fence quickly than a whole bunch of kids.
So you're saying I should send my twins over?
Totally.
All right, just let me, my son especially, he'll destroy it in a matter of moments. So, all right. All right. What?
Do you want me to answer, Jamie?
I'm sorry. I guess we've got just one last really good question that we just can't quite end.
Oh yeah, that question. I see it.
No, there. Which? Oh, okay. Yep, from Janet.
Yeah, I'm seeing it, Laura, so I'll read it off. So basically, no, it's cool. So what it's saying is, the question is, if the lender asks the board or the association to fill out a questionnaire because they're going to look to lend for a condo purchase or a refinance or whatever, what does it mean when they ask, in the event a lender acquires a unit due to foreclosure, is the mortgagee, meaning the mortgage company, responsible for paying delinquent common expense assessments? What does that mean? Unfortunately, that form is really crafted so that it's supposed to span all 50 states, but they don't recognize that every state has its own condominium law that says something different. So usually that question has a yes or no box attached to it, which is ridiculous because in Wisconsin, there is no yes or no to that question. It's really one or the other. It's if a mortgage company forecloses and they take the property in foreclosure, they don't have to pay any condominium assessments to the association, because just like Mike Farrell mentioned a few minutes ago, we don't have that super lien kind of law that allows an association to hop in front of a first mortgage. They foreclose the assessments with them, we're stuck and we don't get to collect anything from the mortgage company. Some states, like the 22 states Dan mentioned, have a statute that says the association can recover a certain amount of assessments from the mortgage company after a foreclosure, after they take over a property. So the answer in Wisconsin is, if the mortgage company forecloses, no, zero. They don't have to pay the association any assessments. But if the mortgage company acquires the property through a deed in lieu of foreclosure, where the owner just says, here, bank, have my deed. We don't have to go through the whole foreclosure process. It's yours. I'm walking away. In that instance, they do owe assessments, and they owe the whole balance, actually, that's due at that time, because that's how Wisconsin law works on that. So that's what that question's asking. Unfortunately, we can't really answer it with a yes or no. So I'm constantly advising boards and property managers to kind of type in a response below, because that's the best that you can do on that one. And I hope that helped.
And the great news is that if you have prospect management, I'm sure many of the board members are questioning why they've never heard of this, because we take care of those questionnaires for you. We have somebody in our office who handles all communication with all of the realtors for the sale and works very closely with you guys as well.
Really great system.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Lydia and Dan, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, and I certainly hope you're both feeling better soon. Tough time to be down and out for sure. So with that, I will, we ran a little bit over, and I apologize, likely because of my technical difficulties. So I just want to thank all of you for hanging in there with us tonight as we kind of worked through all of this. We just knew how important the association affair is to so many of you, and so we wanted to try to bring it still to everybody, although it was a little bit differently and maybe didn't go as smoothly as it usually does, but hey, we did it. So
you did it.
You did. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. Stay safe. Take care. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.